You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Moline, the co-author of the book, Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors, How to Triple Your Sales and Turn Your Roofing Website into an Online Lead Generation Machine. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I'll be sitting down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. As always, please follow, share, comment, subscribe, leave a review, all of those things to help get our content out to more and more people. If you want to take the conversation beyond just listening to the show, go to Facebook, type in Roofing Success, and join the Roofing Success Facebook group. Today, I'm really excited. We're going to talk a lot about team, a lot of talk about leadership, a lot about putting people in the right place. And so I have Jason Phillips from Phillips Home Improvements down in the DFW, the roofing mecca. How are you today, man?
Doing great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So for those of you that maybe didn't catch the Blue Collar Millionaire episode that you were on, was that on CNBC that did that show? Yeah. So
yeah, that was CNBC.
Got a chance to be on the Blue Collar Millionaire, featured on a show there, and have done has built a great company. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into roofing.
Well, gosh, I tell you, Jim, I had been in the home improvement industry for a few years, and I was working for a company that was really just going down the drain. I was 6 weeks behind on my paychecks. My wife and I were getting groceries from our parents' pantries, trying to pay the bills, and the guys that started the company that were selling it to another guy that was trying to buy it from. A long story there, but they came to me. They're like, Jason, we think he's running it into the ground. We think you can do this on your own. We just want to give you our blessing to go out and start your own business. And I was looking at other options at the time, outside of the home improvement industry. And just honestly, Jim, just after a bunch of prayer and, just talking to my trusted people, I really felt I need to make a difference because I felt like people deserved more, whether it was, employees like me, or whether it was the homeowners that weren't getting treated right, or whether it was the guys on the ladders and on the roofs. We're working with the tools that I saw just a lot of injustices in my market, at least. And I thought that I had an opportunity to come in and just give people more.
That's awesome. And that is such a story that gets told with the successful contractors that I talk to, is that they saw this gap, this gap in how a lot of times how homeowners were getting treated, or how they were being treated as employees. Those are the two biggest things. And they're like, I'm not putting up with this. Like, there's no reason for this to be happening. We could do this so much better. And so some of the stuff that I like that you've been doing, you have your Triple Crown Contractors Facebook page, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because I think that has led to the foundation, if I'm not mistaken, in kind of how you put together your company and have grown it the way you have. So can you explain the kind of the triple crowns of contracting, as you put it?
Absolutely. Well, Jim, there's really historically no school that says, hey, I want to go, I want to be a roofer. I want to be a home improvement contractor. You wake up one day and you find yourself there, right?
That's right.
And you come in through one of, three doors. You're, a salesperson, a tradesperson, or possibly you grew up or you purchased the business, whatever. So you typically start out with a lot of time and no money. And you go, your blood, sweat, and tears, and you work hard, and you start having success, and you trade that free time for revenue, for profits, for money. And now you have money, but you're bankrupt on time. And so you still don't have freedom. And so when you can get the three crowns of time and money and freedom, You can live your life the way that you want to live your life. Your business isn't your ruler, and you can add value back to your, your community, your church, whatever, and live your life the way you want to.
Yeah, I think that's what I hear coaches and just different people, not just in the roofing industry, but all across the board, talking about finding that big goal, what you really want out of your life. And I've heard it described a lot of times as really, no matter what you say, it comes down to freedom, right? Whether you want to buy the big house or travel the world, or or give to us to back to your church or a specific organization, or all of it is like it comes back to freedom. And that's the challenge in business, right? Is getting to that place of freedom. One of my favorite books, I don't know if you've read it or not, but it's Robert Kiyosaki's Cash Flow Quadrant. Are you familiar with that one?
Yes.
Right. So the cash flow quadrant is, in the upper left-hand corner is an E for employee, but lower left-hand corner is S for self-employed. Upper right-hand quadrant is B for business owner, and lower right-hand quadrant is I for investor. And that's in kind of hearing you tell me about the time, money, freedom. That kind of feels like the journey that we go on, or that we should go on, right? So you start off an employee, that's just definitely 100% trading time for money, right? And then you move into a self-employed role. Maybe you're a small, start a roofing company, and you're the salesperson, the production manager, the general manager, the office manager, the delivery driver, right. And so you're everything in that business. You're self-employed. If you leave for the day, the business shuts down for the day. That's self-employed. And what you're talking about is the path to business ownership, where there is more freedom, where that becomes, if you don't show up for the day, the business still runs, right?
Absolutely.
So the challenge that I see people facing in doing this is finding the people to put in place so that they don't have to be there.
I tell you, I like to say that you can, on that journey,
yeah,
you can burn out trying to do it all yourself. You can burn up, or you can build out, and build out is building a team.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in that, what does your team look like nowadays? And how did that evolve over the years?
So I actually started off in the painting industry.
Okay.
And then, added roofing a couple of years later. It's the same customer, it's just painting, and it's just a different shingle, basically. And so, started out, it was me. So today, what it looks like is I have, obviously all the crews. We do painting, roofing, gutters, a lot of siding replacement, and have our sales team, have our production management team, as well as I have a call center, marketing team, and a leadership team. So day to day, the operations is handled by my managers and leaders and the whole team. And my primary job is really to lead the leadership team and look down to the future, further off in the future, and plan for what's our next big move.
Yeah, and that's where where the magic happens, right? Because when you're not in that day to day, and you're not worried about if the materials are on the job site on time, or if this crew did this correctly, or if the next sale is going to come into the business, that's where you really get to do some really cool stuff with your business, right? And so when what year did you guys get started?
1997.
97. So you're, 23, 25 years into this. It doesn't happen overnight. How was that journey, and who was, or where did you realize, hey, I need more freedom? And who was maybe your first hire that helped you along that journey?
Great question. That actually happened about a year into my business, and I was working basically 7 days a week, almost 12 hours a day. I was the epitome of had no time. I was coming home, wife and kids were in bed, dinner was in the microwave, covered up with a paper towel cold, missing recitals and practices and games and just all of those fun things because I had to keep that plate spinning.
That's right.
And so I just came to this point and I said, I can't do this. I either need to, I've got two options. I have to either pull back and, accept less income, basically less revenue, less income. Or the other option was I can build a team of people who share my passion. And I chose to build a team of people.
Nice. So really it came early with you. You're like, hey, you saw what was in front of you. Man, I can't do this forever. And that's where, sometimes it's challenging to make that leap. It's a leap of faith to hire that person to take over and do those things. What was the role that you hired?
I hired a salesperson. That was my first hire and my second hire. And then after that, I hired someone to answer the phones and start, helping me out with the books.
Yep. So that tells me that maybe you felt you were better on the production side.
It would seem that way, but no. I think I probably felt better about training someone to do the sales.
I see.
And so that was maybe an easier route for me to onboard someone at that point.
So you actually had a confidence in your skill set as a salesperson, and that you could give that information to the next person and get them to be as good or close to as good as you were doing. That is an interesting one, because a lot of times I always think of I like to hire my weakness, or what I procrastinate at, is the way I put it, right? If I procrastinate on something, that's a role that I need, right? Because that is not moving in the business, right? If I'm sitting back on, man, I don't want to do that right now. And so that's what I kind of think of. But you went, man, I have a skill set here. I could take the skill set that I have, transfer it to someone else, and I'll figure out the other side later.
That's basically what I did. And what you mentioned about, outsourcing your weakness is what I began to do thereafter.
Yep.
And so that was very important. But, I guess I had been going to the school of Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy via cassette tapes in my vehicle in sales for years, a university on wheels. Right.
Right. And so that's an interesting way to do it. And that's very telling about you too. Like nowadays we have podcasts, but in 97, throw Zig Ziglar in the tape deck and drive to the next job site. And, maybe in your Walkman while you're painting the kitchen, right?
I'm dating myself. Yes, that's all true.
But it's self-improvement is the gem that's in there, right? That you're always trying to improve on what you're doing. So now you hired the salespeople, and that's, if you're familiar with Grant Cardone, I've listened to some of, one of his things, Mark Cuban had a good quote about it. Like, without sales, you don't exist. I'm paraphrasing it badly, but, without sales, you don't exist. So you went that direction. Hey, let's get business coming in and I'll figure out the back end here.
Yes. Once you get revenue generating, you have cash. When you have cash, you can buy people's time or products or whatever. If you have cash, you can solve a lot of problems.
You could solve a lot of problems. It's easier to make up for the mistake that you made if you have some cash flow, right? Like if you got to go back and spend $2,000 fixing something that wasn't right, it's hard to do when you don't have another job right in front of you that'll get you, $4,000 in profit on, right? So so that's a great place to start. So you know, over time now you've built your team, you built it in, you've gotten very specialized, it sounds, in your teams. You have a sales team, a production team, you have your call center. What was the other, was there another
Marketing team and accounting
marketing team?
department.
Yep.
And but it didn't start out that way. Obviously, when we all start out, we're each wearing so many hats.
Yes.
And initially for many, many years, my sales team also ran their projects. And when I divided the sales team and the production team, and everybody's doing what they're really good at, kind of what they're wired for, just the productivity on sales went up and the customer satisfaction went up. So, having people specialized is very important. And if you can see right here behind me, I've got that Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
And that just reminds me that, when I started my business and when we start our businesses, we're like a Swiss Army knife. We can do a little bit of everything, but we can't do everything with excellence. And
That's right.
so kind of behind me here, also, I have a butcher block with a meat cleaver on it. And it's like, okay, we need for this, for sales, we need the meat cleaver, for production, we might need the scalpel. And having people slowly specialize into what they're good at. It's not only, what they're made for, what they're designed for. And we use disc profiles for that, but it also, you now have focused attention as well. So you have people working a position where the intrinsic rewards of that position are drawing them towards success in that position, but they're also not having to multitask as much, and they're able to focus. And when we did that, we raised our prices. We were able to raise our prices 20%, raise our closing rate 20%, and raise our net promoter score up significantly
Wow.
to be leading our peers in our market.
That's amazing. And that's where I think a lot of early in people's journeys, they compete a lot on price. So you mentioned something significant there, that as you've built this out, you're able to raise your prices. And it's because people buy when value exceeds price. So the value that you're providing and the efficiency of your team and the expertise in all of the very nuanced areas now leads to higher value to the homeowner. And how did you make that conscious decision? Were you afraid of that when you first attempted it? Or did you just go, hey, we're upping the prices because I got to pay for all these people?
No, I've believed in value from day one.
Yeah.
And, if you add, whether it's the product or the service, you do a few little details differently on these home improvement projects, and it costs maybe, this much more, but it makes the job last so much longer for the homeowner. And so just really believe in those things. And so, when I raised my price, I'm having now specialists work for the homeowner. I can invest in more people and deliver more value. I didn't just raise the price. Some of that raised price went to deliver more value for them, yeah, which then increases customer satisfaction, which then enables you to, possibly raise your price again. It's not about price gouging people, but it truly is an exchange of value. And, homeowners, especially in my market, but really nationwide, they're afraid of getting ripped off, taken advantage of, shoddy workmanship, just all of those same things. And this is their home, their castle that they live in. And, they're trying to have a peaceful night's rest after putting the kids to bed. They don't need to worry about their roof leaking or shingles blowing off their house or whatever it is. They need someone they can trust and to give them peace of mind.
That is well said. And that is what I think a lot of contractors that sell on price don't understand, is that they are not selling the cost, right? And there are going to be those people out there. There will be some people, but knowing that is not your perfect customer. That's not your customer. Your customer is not the person who is just looking for the cheapest
I think those people, Jim, are rare that are really looking for the cheapest. They say they're looking for the lowest price, but in
Oh,
reality, they just don't see the value, and if we can, if we lower our price, now all of a sudden we don't have enough gross profit in the job to cover when something goes wrong.
yep.
Now we don't have enough money to hire enough people to have good communication lines. So we start cutting corners, communication drops, customer satisfaction goes down, reputation goes down, Google stars go down, conversion rates go down, and it's a downward spiral. Lowering your price is never a good idea, if you ask me.
That's so true. And that's where I think I think it's a lot of the, especially what we talked about, where contractors really come from three places: sales or production, or right. The people that come from production, a lot of times, I think they have the challenge in that they don't see the other part of the business where those costs are incurred. One of the things that you had mentioned is in communication. Like, that is probably the most valuable part of an interaction with of the interactions that you have with the homeowner. When a homeowner is sitting there wondering if the salesperson is going to show up, when they're showing up, then they're wondering when they're going to get on the schedule, then they're wondering, that communication, it provides an enormous amount of value right there. But you need people. You have a call center.
Right? Jim, you mentioned something. It's like, okay, but too many. I've heard way too many contractors say, "Well, we did everything we were supposed to do, and they're not happy." Yeah, but you drug them through the mud the whole time. And everybody knows the Maya Angelou quote. People will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never forget the way you made them feel.
Yeah.
And and one of our biggest challenges was when the production stacks up and we're weeks and weeks and weeks behind, that the time from when they sign the agreement with us to the time they get scheduled and get started, there was this no man's land of darkness where we left them in the dark. So what we did is we implemented a system. As soon as the sales turns all the paperwork and turns the sale in, it gets converted into a project. Immediately the customer gets an email and a phone call. And then once a week, every 7 days from when they signed up, we give them a hug. We call them or text them, whatever is their preferred method. Hey, we haven't forgot about you. We're still about 3 weeks away. We only schedule 7 days on the schedule at a time. And we just kind of keep them in the loop. And that made a tremendous difference in our customer satisfaction, just a few more touch points.
So it's a small change in communication, but it's a big change in the way that the homeowner feels. What you said, we're 3 weeks out, and then we put you on the calendar for one of the next 7 days. That sounds like your process, right?
Yes.
However far you are out, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is. So a lot of times we think, well, I told the homeowner we're 3 weeks out, and then we'll put them on the schedule. And they hear you're 3 weeks out, you'll put them on the schedule. But for 3 weeks, they're wondering when you're going to call them to put them on the schedule.
Yes.
And that gap in communication, man, that is a gem right there. Right. And so having a follow-up process, just touching base to say, hey, now we're about 2 weeks out. Now we're about 1 week out before we're going to schedule you. Right. Not even getting them scheduled, just to call and say, hey, we're thinking about you. You're on our mind, Mr. Mrs. Homeowner. You're on our mind. We're going to get you on the schedule. And then the day comes and you call and you're like, hey, would Tuesday or Thursday work better for you? Right. And now it's a much different experience.
Absolutely.
Much different experience. That's awesome, man. And it's in those details that you create gaps between your company and the next. Right.
Yeah, it's those little things. And that's just a very small thing. But what we had to do to make that happen, Jim, is we had to systemize it. Yep. We had to make it obvious what to do, when to do it, And the system, when we go in there, we log, okay, we just did a hug, and it's timestamps it. Then that customer doesn't show up on the hug list again for 7 days. And then boom, they're on today's list. They're getting communicated with today before the day's out. And one of the things, we implemented is, Sam Walton of Walmart, he was famous for something called the sundown rule, that if any of the stores needed any requests from central office, whether it was communication or whatever, they were going to work until the sun was down, till they fulfilled every one of those requests. And I actually, I didn't have that from Walmart, but a while back I was in Discount Tire, just having some tires put on one of my vehicles. And a lady walks in, I think they closed at 4 PM, whatever the time was. Let's just say 4 PM. She walks in like at 3:59 and said, "Are you guys still open?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "Well, can you get my tires done today?" He said, "Yes, ma'am. As long as you're in here before closing, our whole team stays until the last car is done." And, what if we adopted that attitude towards serving our homeowners and towards serving our own team members internally? How much better would things be?
Exactly. And having that attitude, it's that those exceptional experiences that you can create. And one of the thing that I just heard that you say is homeowner, but also internally with your employees. That is a place where I think a lot of business owners miss too, right? They treat their clients in a certain way, but they don't have the same customer service with their employees.
I could not agree more. When you talk about, things like culture, we need to add value, not just to our customers, but to our employees. Happy engaged employees are going to be happy and engaged with your customers and deliver those exceptional storytelling experiences that we want them to have. And it takes time and effort to develop a culture internally of that. My goal is I want my team members to share my vision, but they have their own family vision as well. Where do they want to go with their career and their family? Well, I want to be the kind of company that they want to work for, a year from now, 5 years from now, for their career. That's what I want to build.
Just like you want that homeowner to call you back or refer their friends and family members, right? It's the same
thing.
It's the same thing. And the longer that you have dedicated employees that are in the culture and accepting of their role and trying to excel at their role, and you're helping them hit their goals, man, it creates, people love coming to work. It's just different, and it gets passed on in every stage, right? Like you said, it gets passed on to the consumer, it gets passed on to the homeowners. So one of the let's walk through a customer journey, if you don't mind, like with you guys, because you have so many details in your process, it sounds like. So now, someone finds you online through whatever you're marketing, they pick up the phone and they call in to Phillips Home Improvement. They hit your call center first?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, okay, go ahead.
What are the details in that, in what that stage of the process for you guys?
Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to respond to that lead quickly. We want to answer the phone, speed to lead. Of course, I don't have to tell you about
That's
speed
right.
to lead, right? Okay. So the speed to lead, but the first thing we want to do is figure out, can we serve them? Are they in our service area? And does it sound like that we can serve their need? So that's just pretty basic. But most of the people are in our service area and we can serve their need, but not always. So first is just want to make sure that we can serve their need. And from there, my call center wants to set up the best possible appointment for everybody's sake. We want to meet with all interested parties, typically, husband and wife, but not always. Could be a grandmother, sister, brother, uncle, whatever, or could just be a solo property owner. But we want to meet with all of the interested parties. For a number of reasons. Okay, we could say selfishly, yeah, we want to meet because our data tells us that our closing rate on the spot is 50% higher if we have both parties there. Okay, that's significant. That means your salespeople can make a lot more out of your appointments if they can only run so many appointments in a week, right? So that's huge internally. But what we also discovered, Jim, is that when we have both homeowners at that initial meeting, and our customer satisfaction is way higher on the back end, because there's no more he said, she said. We've literally showed up to houses before. Let's just say we're going to put gutters on or whatever, and we start putting them on, and the customer's like, whoa, 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 that's the wrong color of gutters. And we're like, no, look here, let's double check. Okay, here's the agreement. Oh no, you signed off for clay. Well, it was their spouse that signed off for clay. And even though we were technically right, what we were doing, we still lost.
Yeah.
That homeowner was still unhappy. We still had to lost production time and had to somehow make the best of it. So it's really important that we get, all interested parties, and that's a challenge. And of course, we don't make a hard and fast rule on it, but that's our first go-to is try to get all interested parties there. And the next thing is we want their time and attention. So we book every appointment for a full 90 minutes, whether we need it or not. So we just ask the customer to commit to, being there and engage the full 90 minutes with us. So that our call center, all they're selling is an appointment.
Yeah.
The value of taking time to meet with us.
But you said some key words there: selling an appointment. That's a different mindset than answering the phone.
Yes.
Right? That is a different mindset. Selling the appointment. The CSR's job is to sell an appointment with your company. It's not just to answer the phone. That's a big difference. So
exactly. They're not just collecting data. They are collecting data, but they're setting us up, and they're setting that whole transaction up for success. And we like to, but we feel like when we're coming out to meet with a homeowner that it's like with contractors, it's like playing Russian roulette. You may get a great one, you may get a great out of town roofer, but then again, we all see those horror stories where people get taken advantage of. And so we are a safe choice for them, and we want to prove that to them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so now I'm assuming that they kind of set the expectations of the appointment on that call before they get off with them, that kind of carries into your sales process.
Absolutely. So we, tell you what, Jim, we'll have someone out there to meet with you next Tuesday at 2:00. Again, we'll take a look at what you want to have done and what you need to have done. And if it looks like it's something we can do, we'll sit down with you, or Joe will sit down with you and provide you with an accurate written proposal of exactly what your investment will be. So it's a script. And that way, when our project consultant or salesperson shows up and knocks on the door, every piece of it is a script. And if it sounds scripted, then we're not doing it right. And, if you're pressuring the homeowner, you're not doing it right. We're really there to help them, but there's no new objections under the sun. There's no new stall tactics or delays or any of that. It's just about thinking ahead. What are the things that could happen? And let's organize and train our people for the right responses to those.
Perfect. So now the salesperson shows up, knock, knock, knock. What are some of the details in that appointment that they're doing to have the highest success?
Well, the first thing they do when they knock on the door is make sure they're talking with the homeowner. Hi, Jim. Hey, Jim, I'm Jason with Phillips Home Improvements. Want to thank you for inviting me out to your home today. Now, my paperwork here says that I'm supposed to be meeting with you and Sally. I don't know your wife's name, sorry. You and Mrs. Jim. Is she available? Oh, great. Why don't you grab her? Okay. Hi, Mrs. Jim. I'm Jason with Phillips Home Improvements. Now, which one of you folks spoke with the office? Oh, Jim, it was you. Great. Did they tell you what I'd be doing here today? Yeah, that's right. I'll take a look at what you want to have done and what you need to have done. Sometimes those things are a little bit different. And if we can do what you want and need, I'll sit down with you and provide you with an accurate written proposal as to exactly what your investment would be. And sound good? Great. Oh, now my paperwork here says, looks like you confirmed for the full 90 minutes. Just want to make sure we're still good for the full 90 minutes. Yep. Yep. Okay, great. Well, I'll tell you what, let's get started. Why don't you show me the part of the project you're most concerned about or even most excited about?
Perfect. So then you're going through, they're showing, they show you, you get your proposal, you develop your estimate, your quote, sit down at the kitchen table, you're doing that. Anything you can add anything there, that any of the details there, or now we can move on to, hey, sign contract, and now the production team or the process goes from there, wherever you want to go with it.
So, the next part is after they start showing us around, what comes natural to salespeople is it's all about, oh, we're going to do this. We're so amazing. You're going to love us. And you just like take the spotlight and shine it right on you. We're the best in town. We're the best in town. We're the best in town. Right. And they don't care about that at that point. Ask them questions. Hey, how long have you noticed those missing shingles? How long have those been missing? When did you notice that? Things like that. And now all of a sudden the homeowner is seeing that you notice things, and you're pointing out things that maybe they didn't notice before. So many times in home improvements, the homeowner calls you out and they think their project is this big and it's going to cost this much money. But we know as professionals that it's typically bigger than they thought. They've procrastinated longer on average than they should have. And so we want to build value and in a way help them see the extent of the real problem that they need to solve. So that, that's on the walk around, that's what we do. Yeah. And at the end of, we have little commitments we want to get from them at the end of it. It's, Jim, I'll tell you what, after what we've seen here today, wouldn't you agree it's probably better to get something done about this a little sooner rather than later? And if I did a good job and you had a real problem, you're going to say, yeah, we need to get this done quick.
Yeah.
That's typically what it is. Right. And just having them acknowledge, yeah, I've got a problem I need to fix.
That's right.
And so from there, I may need to go to the truck, or, my guys may need to go to the truck, get some samples or whatever. And we always want to, deliver our presentation face to face at the kitchen table if possible. And, a lot of companies, I'll tell you what, I'm going to email that to you, going to email it to you, put it in email. Everybody wants email, right? But now all of a sudden, when you're gone, they forget your face, they get an email, and it's a bunch of documents, and all they're doing is they're going to lay them all out on the kitchen table and look at the bottom line. All the value you add is now just flushed right down the toilet when you email that later. And so it's very important to, present and hey, confirm, okay, looks, did I get everything in here? Did we got this and that and this and that? Did I leave anything out? Would you change anything? Great. Well, let me put all these numbers in my system real quick. And about 5 minutes here, I'll have you a price. And so we tell them a little about it. We tell them some basic industry statistics and a little bit about our company, but we don't spend a lot of time talking about our company. But we do need to, build some trust and ask them, is Phillips a company you could trust your home to for this project? If they can't say yes to that, have no reason to even go any further. And so, but we have a basic 7-step process all the way from the front to the back in our sales process. It's easy to train. It's pretty easy to learn.
Yep. And that's the duplicatable process is when you're moving out of that self-employed to being the B, right?
Yes.
To being the business owner and taking some of your freedom back and being able to move out to work on your business instead of in your business. So now what are some of the special things that happen? You had said now they get their hugs be in between, right? So they right. said, yeah, Jason, let's do this. We want you guys to do this job for us. Here, sign on the dotted line. Now we're, in that middle time period, they're getting their hugs, as you mentioned before. So now we're moving on to say production, or if there's anything else you want to add in there. Now we're, if we're moving on to production, what are the highlights there of what you're doing?
Well, the next step, Jim, would be, hey, Jim, it's Jason with Phillips Home Improvements. It's time to get you on the schedule. We're looking at, middle of next week, weather depending. I've got an opening. It looks like on Wednesday. How does that work for you? Great. Okay. Well, it looks like we're going to have Mike will be your project manager, and he'll be calling you the evening before just to coordinate the exact time that morning. It could be early morning or mid morning. Okay, great. We've got you down. So then, the night before, Mike is going to call. Hey, Jim, this is Mike. I'm your project manager. Excited about getting this project done for you. It looks like I'll be meeting, be arriving about 8:00 with the crew. Just want to make sure that you're going to be there because I really want to walk the project with you and the crew just to make sure we're all on the same page before we get started. And so then we show up that day, and that's, what we call our job start. And we really want to make sure that to walk around with our notes, and if the customer has any additional concerns, how many times do you hear about, they just showed up and started hammering on my roof?
Yeah,
it happens. It's
all the time,
right?
All the
and
time.
And so something so simple, gosh, the guys didn't even knock on the door, and hey, we're here, we're ready to get started. Something so simple, and so and we're upfront with the customer. Hey, Mr. Customer, my project manager says this. My performance is graded based on your satisfaction. And it's my goal here to provide you with such excellent service that you wouldn't hesitate to give us a 5-star review when we're done.
Prefacing, setting it up, right? That's
yes.
And that's why you guys have so many great reviews, because you've prefaced it. You've done that. One of the things that in that I wanted to ask about was how many times during that walkthrough do things get caught that that make a huge impact in the build or in the job that you're doing with them?
So, on our roofing projects, it's not real often.
Yeah.
It typically happens when we're doing a painting and gutter job, because so many times the gutters are installed on the fascia board over the drip edge, and the water gets trapped in there and rots the fascia board. And some of that, no matter how hard you try to poke up there, you just can't see till you rip the gutters down.
Yep.
And also a lot of times, on painting, painters use cheap caulk. It hardens up, cracks, water gets in behind the wood and rots the wood. And then when you come power wash, it just blows the paint off and you expose rotten wood on the second story that you just couldn't see. And so we're upfront with the customer about that. Now, Jim, when the guys come out and power wash, after they power wash, they're going to double check everything. They could find some additional rotten wood that you'll definitely want to get taken care of. Unfortunately, I don't know what that is, so I can't include that here, but I just want to let you know up front, there could be some more of that.
Setting proper expectations. That's right.
Yes.
Like, hey, when we open this up, we may find something, right? When we tear this off, we may find something. When we do that, we may find something additional. But when we do, we want to show it to you. We'll show you what our best suggestion is for fixing what the issue is, and we'll move on from there, right? Like, it's keeping the homeowner in the loop. You didn't surprise them. You didn't, they're not like, oh, well, they came out and all of a sudden they added an extra $2,000 to the job, and they should have found this before.
That's right.
It was explained to them, hey, we won't find this until there's no way for us to know this without removing the gutters.
Exactly. And if you're upfront with that, if you're very upfront with that,
yep.
We actually, just to make sure that our guys create clarity, we actually, on our agreements, there's a place where they have to initial that after power washing, they could find additional bad wood.
So that's another thing. I've a long time ago, I had an attorney friend who worked with contracting, and that was his niche. And he told me one day, you know why they call them contractors, Jim? I said, why? He said, because they work on contracts. So those little
Oh,
initials, right? Like those little initials, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, you see where you initialed right here. We walked you through this. We didn't just email it to you.
right.
We sat down at the kitchen table and we walked you through this, and you initialed right here. I'm sorry if there was some miscommunication about that, but look, we're gonna have to we're gonna have a problem here, and we want to resolve it and for you so that your home is safe and secure in the future. This is how we propose to do that, right?
Yes.
And so, okay, so now production's done, right? Or what other things happen in that time period, or after the job is completed, that are those little details?
Well, when the project is completed, we want to make sure the customer is truly happy. So we have a certificate of completion that's specific to each project type. And we have the project manager walk around his checklist, make sure everything's done, walk around with the homeowner, and then they both sign off on it. And we truly want to leave that customer happy.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to be, just middle of the road satisfied. I want to leave them where they're going to tell a story about how easy it was to do business, how kind our people were, and how great and friendly the team was, and how they just can't wait to have us back again. That's you want to invest in your future. Give people that feeling, your customers that feeling. And, then on the other end of it, you could give them a bad story to tell, and that happens. Sometimes we all make mistakes, right? But the one of the problems is the dissatisfied people are way more likely to tell a story than the very satisfied people. So you need some encouraging on them. They're busy people, like we're busy, and make it easy for them to leave a review for you. Have a reputation management platform or whatever that you work with that makes it super easy for them to leave good comments for you.
I love that. Leave them with the ability to tell a good story, right? To tell the good story about your company, not just leave them feeling like they had a good experience. That's a detail that listen up, people. That is a detail that if you do that and have that a conscious effort to have them be able to tell a good story about your company, that's a whole different level. That's
Indeed.
a different level. That's awesome. And so now, job's complete, checks are collected. The goal of all, or I like to say, how do you get referrals? Well, you do good work for people, and then they refer you. So I would assume that in doing all of these details and having them create that good story, you're hoping for, some future business down the road from a referral from a friend or family member, a neighbor, or additional work on their own property. What do you guys do in that process? What are the
That's a great question. So I wish I could say we were really strong at actually asking for referrals. We're not as strong as we need to be. I wish we were, but we're not. We're pretty good at leaving them with a good story to tell. So I'm happy with that so far. And but we send a handwritten thank you card. We'll send them a gift box with some, a mug and pen, things in there. Actually, we're having coming up, we're having a customer appreciation day, a big event we're throwing here at our office, and just inviting our customers in to love on them. We'll have some giveaways and such as well, but just, creating some of that. And, but we measure how much business we get from repeats and referrals. And it's important that we get a significant amount of business from that, because that shows, are we truly adding long-term value to them? Our greatest lead source is repeat and referrals. It's like 42% of our business. And which in a way is virtually, I don't want to say it's completely free, but it's a lot cheaper than a fresh lead. Right.
Yep.
And so that we measure that. And if that starts going down, hey, what are we doing? We want that to be increasing all the time. And, so that, measuring the repeats and referrals is vital. How much, a lot of people don't really track their leads. I know as well as they should. And that can be a challenge sometimes. Right. But in today's world with call tracking, phone numbers and all that different stuff, it's a lot easier than it was back in 1997.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, in 1997, they just opened up the yellow pages and called you. That was
mention code XC23A.
That's right. So that's awesome, man. So now let's talk about building that team to fulfill that customer journey, right? Choosing the right team member, choosing the right person for the role. I know that you guys, I would assume that first we have to define the roles, right? And then we have to look at who we need in that seat. How have you guys done that?
Well, in the early days, I did it based on, hey, I really need someone really bad here. Oh, you need a job? Oh, yeah, come on. My small network of people I knew. And gee, you can only imagine the mistakes I made through there. It's as many contractors and small business people do. And when I learned about personality profiles, it was an eye opener. First of all, it was an eye opener to me individually when I, took a DISC test or it's not really a test, it's an evaluation. And I'm like, wow, that's absolutely me. It wrote down things that I kind of knew deep inside were true, but I'd never really brought them to the surface and verbalized them. I'm like, wow, this is deep. And so I dug in. I was so sold on it that I went through 2 different certifications for DISC. And so I rolled it out through our whole team, and I began to see patterns of initially we had our sales and production team was one team. That's the same person who estimated and sold your project was also going to run it through completion as the project manager. And, we had some people were really great at closing the sale, but they couldn't get some of their details right. And they dropped the ball with the customer later. Then customer wasn't happy. Well, then we had other guys that were, their conversion rate on their appointments was really low, but when they got the job, it was priced right. All the details were right. The customer was completely satisfied, singing praise left and right. Okay. And then when I saw the DISC profiles and I started just stacking them into stacks based on what the graph looked like, and it became very clear, oh my, these people need to focus on sales. These people need to focus on production. So I divided the team. Unfortunately, I lost some people because not everybody likes change. But that's how we now hire, because we want someone to come in and thrive, not only at our company and our environment and be a culture match, but we want them to be a match for the position that we have for them. And, there's a particular thought that just pops in my mind. This was a few years ago, where every morning we have like a 5 to 7 minute stand-up meeting in which all the leaders stand up in my office and say, hey, I've got these 2 things I've got to get accomplished today if I can call this day a success. Just boom. And then it just leads to a lot of collaboration after the meeting. Well, it comes around to my accountant, and she says, well, I'm going to add 4 accounts to the GL in the budget sheet for next year, and I'm going to do this. And she starts describing all the spreadsheet stuff. And then, so she's done, and next in line is my sales manager. And he looks there and he goes, oh, wow, yuck. I couldn't imagine that. And she looked at him, she said, well, I love what I do. I couldn't imagine doing what you do. And it was just driving the point home that she was in her zone and he's in his zone. And I've had many great people in years past that were great people, culture fits, but they were in the wrong position and they were flailing, and they either quit or had to get let go because, we didn't have another position for them, or I didn't understand DISC profiling and things like that at the time. it was tough. And guess what? They don't teach you this type of stuff in school. They don't teach you about personality profiles. And I feel that your average candidate has no clue either. I was like 40 something years old before I figured this all out about me. I believe it's that companies need to get some basic knowledge in this for their hiring process. Because if you hire the right person and they don't do a good job and you let them go, or they quit because they're not performing well, who loses? Everybody loses. If you're a seasonal business and you hire that person just right before the spring wave hits or whatever, you've lost a huge opportunity to catch that wave. So there's, one, we need to do this because we value people and we value bottom line, all of that. And the thing I like about DISC, there's the Myers-Briggs, there's the Colby, and there's all these different ones, and they're all great. The thing that I liked about the DISC is it's really easy to teach someone the basics about it. It's very easy. And so that's what I adopted. There's other great systems, but that's just the one I chose. And it is made a huge difference in our culture, in our individual success as a team.
And that's because the people that are in the seat are doing a job that fits their personality. Like you had said with the salesperson and the accountant. It is amazing how much you're like, I would never want to do your job, right? Like I would never want to. That's true. Like there's so many jobs that you would not want to do based on just who you are. And it's very telling. I did the same thing. I've taken a lot of these tests now, from the Colby to predictive index to the DISC and all these different ones. And they're all very telling.
Yes.
They are like, wow, they are eye-opening to in that understanding. One of the things I want to point out that you said that I think that is extremely important to people listening is that you kind of work at a certain point, you're working it backwards. So you're learning what traits from that profile go with that position.
Yes. Like for instance, someone in sales, your typical salesperson on a short cycle selling, which is different than someone the guy who sells you roofing shingles is going to have a different profile than an in-home salesperson. And, an in-home salesperson, they love winning. They love the thrill of the chase. They love that. And, there's some people, when I gave you the example of what we say at the door, knock, knock, knock. Hi, Jim. Now my paperwork here says I'm supposed to be meeting with you and Mrs. Jim. Is she available? The very thought, I've had people I could never ask that question. I could never ask that question. And other people like, yeah, they said they were going to both meet with us. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
And just, so you don't want to put someone in the wrong position, because it's almost like when you have them in the wrong position, their internal wiring it's almost like cognitive dissonance. When, if, for instance, cognitive dissonance, like if you love your job, but your employer is asking you to lie on the tax forms, but you're an honest person, there's this tension that goes in, and you may do it a couple of times, but eventually you're going to blow and you're going to quit or whatever. Right. And it's the same thing, although it may not be a moral issue. There's a tension when someone is working the job that they're not made for.
Yeah.
So it's like this unconscious avoidance of what really needs to be done to succeed in that position.
Yeah. You're working against your nature, right? Like, and you can't do that. Like it cannot happen. And so what are some of the examples of the most important positions and how they fit into the DISC profile that you found for those seats?
So, our sales people typically have, they like in our organization, the way our sales works, our salespeople like to follow a process and they like to win. And on the DISC profile, that's a DC profile. And there's, DIs, which is another one, works very, very well as well. And now on our call center, because they are selling appointments, basically have the same profile. They basically have the
Wow.
same profile. Now, when you get to, back to our production schedulers, they're more the mothers of the office, the mother hens. They want to make sure everything is good and all the details are right and the customer's taken care of on a different level. They're more caring and have higher empathy,
Mm.
And so, of course, in our accounting department, they're extremely detail oriented people. They love process. They hate change. If you ask my accountant, what's the thing you can't stand most about Jason that drives you nuts? Jason always has a new idea and he's changing directions. That's what they're going to say about me. They say it to my face. Which is another thing. Your people you need to create a safe environment for your people to speak the truth, because all progress begins with telling the truth, right? And so having a safe environment where you can have healthy conflict. Okay, aside from that, but I like to tell my accounting department, you guys are like metronomes. You don't miss a beat. And you know what? When they hear that, it's music to their ears, because that's what they want to be. They want to be reliable and dependable, right? Yeah. And so just knowing that helps us position people in the right way where they can see, where they can succeed. And it also, when you want to tell someone, hey, great job or whatever, and you want to affirm someone and recognize someone, doing it and speaking to them in language that's really going to speak to their inner being is huge. And I feel like these personality profiles, it's like it's a window to their soul, to their, it's like X-ray into who they are. And I mean, it's not rocket science, but it's amazing. I guess in a way we're simple human beings, right? But some of this stuff isn't so obvious to us. And then when you show it, like, oh man, yeah, okay. It's been a game changer in my life, and not just in my business, in my parenting, in my marriage, in all of my relationships.
So what is some of the language that works with that in praising that DC person versus like what would your maybe an SC, would that be one of your?
Okay, so the C person is very conscientious. They like to follow a process, and they always question, they question a lot of things. Why? How? Give me the details. So when you speak with those people, you give them details, such as, I noticed how you did X, Y, Z, and this could have been very wrong, but you made sure to get the such and such detail right, which they did, because that's the kind of person they are. And you recognize it in that way. Now if the person who's an I or a DI, they want to win and they want to be the star of the show. They like prestige and recognition and big desks and flashy colors and things like that. So you're going to, man, you're so awesome. You made a big splash. Speak to them differently. The C person doesn't care about making a big splash.
At all.
Yeah. And, and so that S person, is all about harmony. They want harmony and they don't like change. They like consistency. And, your D's and C's are more task oriented people, and your I's and S's are more people oriented. And then some are outgoing and some are a little more reserved. And when you can put the basics of it together, there's a whole lot of stuff online. You can read about it. It's eye-opening. If there's people listening and you want to learn more about disc profile, the place I would recommend is take one.
Okay.
Just take a disc profile and read it, and wait 30 days and read it again. Give it to your spouse, read it again in 30 days. And you're going to start seeing how accurate the people say these are like, I guess scientifically they say they're like 88% accurate, but people report it's like 95%.
Yeah. So just go to Google, free disc assessment, DISC, free disc assessment, drop it in there and take the test.
Absolutely.
See what you are. Have your spouse take it or one of your key employees take it and start to look at these different things, right? Start to look at, oh yeah, this person is a high C, I am a high D or whatever it is. And then, oh yeah, I do this more than, I like this more than, that it really does make an impact. And one of the things that you told me another time that we were talking was that you want a well-rounded team, not well-rounded individuals. And that
Yes,
is finding those right people. Can you speak to that a little bit?
absolutely. You know, a well-rounded person, I would liken again to that Swiss Army knife, can do a little bit of everything. But we're not really made that. You know, as a small business owner, we are forced into doing a lot of things. But then as we start, you know, growing in as our business, we can discover, wait, I'm a specialist on my own. What is my specialty? I've had to do the accounting and the marketing and the sales and the production and the janitorial, but okay, what am I really good at? What am I drawn to? And I like the way you say it is, you know, what are those things that I tend to put off?
Yeah.
And so realize that you're a specialist as well. And so when we can have everybody is specializing in what they're good at, it makes all the difference in the world. But discovering that is not always so obvious.
That's awesome. And that when people do what they're made for, and you have the team of all of the pieces that you need to the puzzle, right?
Yeah. So the well-rounded, for instance, you know, Jim, we tend to attract the type of personality that we are.
Yeah.
And what happens is, you know, if you don't consciously build a well-rounded team, you end up with a very lopsided team. Or maybe your team is all go-getters, drivers, and they're really good at going and getting the sale, but your whole team is bad at taking care of that customer, or they're bad at communicating. Or maybe they're really good at you're that conscientious person, that systems person, and you're really good at running those, but you can't go hunt. You can't go hunt and drag it back to the cave, you know, kill something to bring it back to the cave. And so we need everybody. So specifically knowing, okay, well, I need these, you know, I need an accountant, I need a sales manager, I need a production manager. And you fill out, you know, your basic org or accountability chart. Then, okay, this person needs to be rewarded. They need to find this type of work rewarding. And then you fill those in, and you can, you know, have a well-rounded team. And there's all these online disc assessments. A lot of them have team dynamic profiles where they take everybody's graph and they plot it on a wheel, and you can see, is this a well-rounded team, or is it very lopsided? So
wow.
that's very helpful. And
cool.
So having a well-rounded team is just, we need to be able to appreciate each other for their strengths, appreciate our differences. And I know this sounds like, you know, some big inclusion thing, but it really is, because one of the things I tell her this all the time, my accountant, one of the things I love about her is she thinks differently than me. I don't need a bunch of team members that think like Jason. She sees it from a different perspective, and I need to weigh in on that. And I need to think through that before I make a decision, or else I'm going to be blindsided. I don't want to be blindsided. And I need people that think differently than me, and have different motivations than me. And that way we can make a well-rounded team.
That's awesome, man. So what is the greatest insight that you could share with our audience that's really helped you find success in your roofing business?
It's very simple. You're really in the people business. If you want to grow your company, you are in the people business, not the roofing business. Roofing just happens to be the product that you install or deliver, and you need to do that with excellence, without a doubt. But to take it to the next level, you have to be in the people business. You have to deliver a wow to your homeowner, a wow to your internal people. You have to attract the kind of people you want and build a team of people. It's really the people business.
Awesome. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you would like to generate more sales through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com and get a copy of the book, Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors: How to Triple Your Sales and Turn Your Roofing Website into an Online Lead Generation Machine. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Thanks for listening.